Alright, I'm going to start stream here. Just putting this out here to tell everybody.
Oh my god, you're wearing the will anymore.
Hello.
Oh my god. What? Oh. Oh my god. How can they pay $10 an hour? Oh, well, no. What am I saying? Michael, not, yeah, Michael's pays their cashiers 9 something.
Hey, I'm streaming with like a really open mic. I can hear every word you're saying. And so it's getting streamed and it's getting recorded to YouTube permanently, just to let you know. All right, I'm going to turn on the recording now. See if I can edit it later, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Ready. Okay, I guess ready to go. How's this sound? Sounds fine, right? It's a little bit echoey. I'm going to get closer over here. All right, ready? Go. Okay, so we're recording a YouTube video today while we live stream this on Twitch because I'm going to be building a bunch of stuff, and people have been asking me a lot about how to build this stuff. The sound is a little bit weird because I've got my mic and my studio mic on here, so we're gonna go ahead and go for it. It's not the best quality video for as YouTube goes, but I think that the content will be something that people want to see. So we have our main thing here. Feel free to chat if you're on Twitch and you have questions while we're going through it, maybe in case I forget something. In fact, let me put this chat up here so I can kind of talk to you. In fact, I can probably, this is magnetic, I bet I can, oh my god, look at that. I can stick it right there and look right at it and talk right at you. Okay, so first things first, let me get my box here. So if you're going to do an IRL stream, you need to have a Jetson Nano. So here is what those look like. It's a Jetson Nano. Here's that Jetson Nano out of the box. A couple things here. Make absolutely sure you get one that is new. This one that I have over here, which has all been mounted up and everything that I've been using for the last year and a half, has not been, it was not new. And the first thing that goes on it, just in case you want to know, is this port right here. So let's go through all the ports, and we can talk about that actually. This particular port is about one. We'll get back to that. So you got your Jetson Nano. You got your Jetson Nano 2 GB, and we're going to talk about why to get the 2 GB versus the 4 GB. That's actually a really big deal. To get the 2 GB versus the 4 GB. They don't make the 2 GB anymore, but it's still better for reasons that we'll get into regarding power. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to tell you, I have come to learn having done lots of trial and error over the last year and a half, and it's been really annoying. And there's a lot of other people who have different opinions on this and about how to do it. So make sure you check out their opinions as well. Again, this is YouTube videos, so all the links will be down in the description. I'll link to the Discord for Belabox and the software from Rational IRL and that community that's built that up so we can even do this, and why do it and all that. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to show you all the pieces that are involved. So first of all, let's talk about what we are doing. We are making a kit. We're making a kit so that you can live stream with dependable video from as remote of places as you can possibly get. And let people will know, if you watch IRL streamers and just chatting, you'll see that they will stream and their quality is bad, or they're using their phone and they can't leave the city, or I mean, there's a million considerations when it comes to streaming IRL content. And you know, I tried it 2 years ago. I did it with my phone for a long time on a gimbal, which just keeps it from, you know, shaking and stuff. So let's talk about the requirements for streaming and why to do this in the first place. And I'll just get into that really quick. So the first thing is you want to be able to move around a lot. You want to be able to go all over and have reasonably, you know, high tolerance for like shaking and vibrations and, you know, weather and things like that, so that you can stream. Now, your phone does come with that, and you can get away with it sometimes if you're still with the phone. A lot of people do, but if you're going to do anything that's even remotely action oriented, or you want to have a higher quality, you want to have a redundant system that combines a bunch of things to make it so that the stream doesn't go bad. And we're going to talk about what those things are. But today specifically, we're going to talk about how to put together the kit, the go-to kit for this. All the stuff that I'm using is pretty much standard. So all of the big IRL streamers use this these days. I mean, really big streamers like Rob CD, who has given up live view. He's now doing nothing more than the Jetson Nano. And, you know, in a different combination. So we're gonna kind of build it, but I'm going to go through that kind of quickly because I already have one built here, and I wanted to show how you know, the innards of it. And this one happened to have a problem last night, so I had to take it apart, and so now I'm able to kind of talk about that. So okay, so the Jetson Nano is the go-to thing. It can do all kinds of CUDA cores. It's made for AI, but the reason it's used is because it's more powerful than the Raspberry Pi, and the primary reason for using it is because the Belabox software, which you have to go out online and go find it, I'll show you where, it runs on this, right? This is the preferred thing for it to run on. You can run a Belabox software on all kinds of stuff, but if you're like me and you don't want to screw around with stuff, you want to use the same stuff that they use. And it's kind of too bad, actually, because all of the GPU processing power is completely wasted on this thing. This thing is only used for its CPU, which is really sad if you know anything about technology. I mean, all of those CUDA cores, all those NVIDIA things, you think when you get this, I mean, at first you might think, oh, hey, we needed NVIDIA with a big ass, you know, GPU in order to do IRL streaming and, you know, bond the video and all that stuff. None of that stuff is done here at all. None of that stuff is done here at all. This entire GPU core is completely wasted. And it's actually something that I would like to work on eventually, because if you can get the core, I mean, if you could get to the power of the core, you could do all kinds of things. You could, you know, combine things. You could do onboard mapping. You could GPS or whatever. But that stuff is not there. It's not supported by it. So the Belabox software is it does one thing really, really well. It allows you to control multiple sources of input signal. One source of video signal, which is this one right here. Right, this USB is the one you use right here. Not this. This is HDMI out. Now, you don't want to block this off, but it's usually, I mean, the HDMI out is kind of useless on a Belabox because they don't even let you log into it. When you go to the console to log in on a Belabox, and I have videos of this yesterday, it tells you, oh, you've got to go to the web interface to get the password to log in. So you might as well just ignore the fact that in fact, I actually seal mine up so that there's no, you know, dust or anything, because I don't use it anymore. The only time I've ever actually used it is when I first started, and I wanted to see, it will show you what IP has been connected, and that can be a little bit of a problem, and I'll talk about some of the problems with setting up networking when you first launch the thing, because it tries to get out of your way and do some things for you, and it ends up being kind of annoying because you don't know exactly what's going on a lot of time. And so we'll go there, but today I just want to talk about the hardware. So this is the Nano, and so this is the power, right? And it's just this really flimsy USB-C, and then you've got, you know, the HDMI out, which is waste, and then you have, this is the only USB 3. Okay, this is the only USB 3 port, and that is a real big deal, because this is the only USB to which you can connect your cam link and I'll show you mine later, but to which you can encode your video encoder. So with all this GPU up here, you think that the video encoding would be happening on the board. It's actually not. You have to do all the video encoding before it gets to the board. If you try to use the video encoding, it will fail, and it will burn out the board. The board will get really, really hot, and you can't do it. A lot of people have tried. People have plugged in USB cameras. And you can try that. A lot of people want to see if they can get it to just do a USB camera, but USB cameras on par are really, really bad quality, and most IRL streamers want the quality of the camera. And we'll get to the camera in a second. I have extensive experience picking wrong cameras and good cameras, and I want to talk to you about that. It's a really big investment. You want to make sure you do it right, and I can talk to you about that as well. So here we have these are the other two. These are the regular USB, I think one, and these cables, these are not really good for anything, but they are good for Wi-Fi dongles, and we're gonna go through that. And then there's the Ethernet port, which you might write off, but I got to tell you, I am so grateful for the Ethernet port. The Ethernet port is probably the most important port on here besides the camera port and the power, because this is your fail-safe. Okay, so that's the Nano. There is a spot in the back here where you put the where you put the card. In fact, this one's still got the card in it. I'm actually going to be replacing this one. So and in another video I can show you how to flash the card. It's actually really important that you make sure to flash this SD card properly. Yesterday I was trying to reflash it and I used Belabox and it failed. I'm sorry, Balena Etcher, and it didn't fail even though that's the recommended way to doing it. I ended up using DD and Linux, which is a very, very highly technical way of doing it. Not everybody has Linux, so I'm still researching a better way to make the image besides Balena Etcher on Windows, which is what I did. Now Windows is, might be the problem, who knows. I have never had a problem etching with Balena Etcher from Linux or from Mac, but on Windows I had a really bad problem yesterday, and every time I did, it would show up as like multiple drives, and it would image it improperly. And so it wasn't until I formatted the thing directly with DD by writing zeros to it, and then put the image directly on it with DD that it actually worked. That's the first time, by the way, I've ever had problems with Balena Etcher. It usually is my number one recommendation, but right now I would go back to the old, Rufus, which has its own problems, or if you know how to do DD. But you've got this getting the right image on this card is so important. If you get that wrong, then you'll have no way of knowing that you did it wrong. Because what will happen, the only way you know that this thing even works is you put it in and you turn it on, and then you try to find it on your internet. It's exactly what you have to do. You have to know how to look up your router. It doesn't tell you what IP address or anything. So you have to go to your router and you have to look for a new device, depending on how you're connecting. And you have to look for a new device, and you have to look up what that IP address is, and then you have to go to the IP address through the web browser. This is not the kind of stuff that your average Joe, IRL streamer who doesn't know anything technical would be able to do. They can't even, navigate their own home router usually. So this is not for, the non-technical. If you most of the IRL streamers either have a technical team, or they've got somebody who set them up so they can just turn the thing on and go. And by the way, that's what I've been doing for almost the last 8 months. I've just been turning it on and going. I haven't even had to really think about it. I just use the interface and go. So, but you have to get to that part. And there's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, they try to make it sound really simple and everything, but it's really not. Many IRL streamers use it, but they have technical teams. And if some of the more technical IRL streamers, you'll see them all the time. They'll like, I thought, like Cash, for example, I've seen him help other streamers who don't have a lot of technical skill, and they'll set it up. Rob CD is sort of a technical guy, but he has a team that regularly helps him keep his stuff running. And when it doesn't run, he'll reach out to a stream or something. I've got quite a bit of Linux background and stuff, so I've kind of dug into how this stuff works, but I want to keep it very simple for most people. So the first thing you need to get is even get a Nano. Now, as I said, don't get a Nano unless it's unused. Okay, if you get a used Nano, you're going to get the problem I have. Your USB port is going to be reamed out or something, and then the cable connection is just going to flicker a little bit, and that's enough to cause you to have those Fs that everybody hates. And I have that on my old one. Or just use a LiveView or whatever service. Yeah, if you, I strongly suggest against using LiveView. First of all, to get even into a LiveView rig, you're talking about $3,000 minimum. Not to mention over $1,000, was over $500 a month. And we'll talk about services and costs and everything. But the LiveView is like probably 1/20th of the cost of that, and it uses better technology. The Belabox rig. The Belabox uses something called Secure Reliable Transport Protocol, SRT, which is the new future. In fact, Twitch and YouTube will eventually change over to it. They're using old school RTMP right now, and RTMP cannot maintain the same bitrate quality that SRT can. And that is a big deal. In fact, if you did nothing more than shifted over to an SRT service from your phone or from even a one modem rig like this, you would see a tremendous jump in the quality of your bit rate and your encoding and less artifacts and everything. Just by, if you don't believe me, go watch the comparisons between SRT and RTMP. It's a big deal, if for no other reason to do that. LiveView does not do SRT and has no plans to do so as far as we know. In fact, that's why all the big streamers have abandoned LiveView. So you got Mikey, you got Rob CD. I mean, I could go on, and almost all of them, big ones have abandoned it for this particular setup. It's worth saying too that they also have a kit now. Rational IRL just starting to sell a kit he creates with a CNC machine that is an actual box for all of this stuff that has the battery and everything in it. So if you want to do that, but I didn't. I already had this other setup. So let's talk about the case for a second. So this is the WaveShare case. It's a metal case. I streamed for 6 months with a plastic case, and it just fucking disintegrated. In fact, there's a famous IRL streamer, I won't say who actually melted his case. He melted it. He melted his case because it got so hot. So this is the package that comes in. It's a WaveShare. This actually comes with a bunch of extra little gadgets in it that you don't need. All you need is the box, in my opinion. Now, if you want to put the other antennas, and if you want to have it use onboard Wi-Fi, so I haven't done any of those things. So the board itself comes with onboard Wi-Fi if you connect the antenna to it, and you have to have a little connector to do that. But I'm kind of simple and cheap, and I didn't do that. I went ahead and used a Wi-Fi dongle. So let's talk about the next piece. So here we have this SanDisk, this thing. So once you image this, it goes right here. Let me see if I can get it in here. Let's do it right. Is that upside down? Might be upside down. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there you go. And it's one of those tension things, right? So it pops in and out. And honestly, once you get that thing installed, unless you fall really drastically behind on your updates, which I did yesterday, then you won't ever have to flash again. You can just, there's a button I'll show you on the Bella UI where you can go and click, I want to upgrade this, and you click on that button and it'll update it. Okay, so I have some liquid nails here. Now let's talk about the fan for a second. So the fan that I got, I mean, somebody's out there is going to give me shit for how I did this. I don't care, because I wanted it to work. So I got this big weird fan. It's a USB powered fan. Don't make the mistake that I did by thinking, fans don't matter. They actually seriously matter. One of the things that'll shut you down, it's the difference between a 2-hour stream and a 6-hour stream, is your fan and your heat management. If you don't do the heat management, you'll have a fantastic stream, you'll get all into the middle of it, and then the whole thing will shut down and you won't be able to get it back until it cools down. So I can't stress enough, it doesn't feel like you need to invest a lot in fans and in that kind of air ventilation and stuff, but depending on your pack and everything, Rob, this is all going on YouTube. Yep. So what I've done is I took that little fan, right? I took that fan and I cut off all the things and I put some liquid nails on there and I just glued that sucker right on there. This is all heat tempered glue. It's the liquid nail stuff. And I just glued it right on there. It does take 24 hours to set, but you can go ahead and do that. You can see the mounting points here. I mean, it's pretty obvious how to mount this thing. There is a, can you see it in here? So there's an extender. There's an extender that comes with the kit that lets the card connector come out. You see that right there, inside of there? That's probably the most important piece of the kit besides the metal that you need. In fact, it's the only piece I think that you need. I think you just need to have what you're really getting this for is this really high grade metal, because this thing is going to get moved around a lot. It's going to get squished. It's going to get all kinds of stuff when you move it, and so. Depending on what you do, and I was running with it and skateboarding and stuff. In fact, this thing survived more than one wipeout on my skateboard. So the plastic, no way. The plastic, the compression, it eventually caused it to break down and everything. Okay, so, and I don't know about you. You might find other things that you want to do with it. I'm not really inclined to mess around with a bunch more stuff, but so there's how it goes together. And I'm just going to kind of leave it sort of pieced together right now. I talk about some of the other parts. You have these little screws, don't lose those. And so there's the fan. The fan comes out right here. And while we're talking about fans, okay, ouch. All right, so here is another fan. And I don't have the case anymore for it. This is another fan that I added. This is probably the last piece from my kit that I added. So this fan is amazing. It is absolutely totally silent, right? It comes with these little pads, and I took them off. Where's my pads? Here, right here. It comes with these little pads like this. And I took mine off because they kept popping off. So the fan blows out this way. It blows out this way. And so what you can do is if you combine this fan on top of this fan, right? And we got gaffer tape. Let's talk about gaffer tape for a second. Okay, so how many of you know the difference between gaffer tape? How do you know the difference between gaffer tape and electrical tape and duct tape? The people who tend to know the difference really know the difference. They really know the difference. Anybody? I've used them all. So this is a special kind of tape. See it? It is designed to not be sticky. It doesn't melt. It's not like electrical tape. It leaves that residue behind, which is just so disgusting. I used to, tape stuff on my bike. Using electrical tape, and it would be in the sun for a while to get all goopy. Same with duct tape. Duct tape, gets kind of breaks down and it leaves the glue behind and it doesn't hold you. Gaffer tape is designed to not leave any residue behind, but yet to be strong enough to tape things down. A gaffer is a person who handles mics and electrical equipment and sound equipment and stuff like that. In Hollywood, they can, if you watch the credits, you can see, hey, the gaffer, right? So that's what gaffers are. They're constantly taping shit together temporarily for concerts or for gigs or something like that. So this is the absolute perfect tape. It re-sticks. You can actually undo it and then stick it back on and undo it and stick it back on probably like 10 or 15 times. And so it's like this. It's like duct tape for people who don't want goopy crap left around. And as you can see, some people go to all kind of great lengths to make nice, pretty, things. They'll 3D print them and everything. And I don't. I just tape up this stuff that. This is not pretty. I'm not telling you this is pretty at all. But I probably will tape around the edges just to keep everything. You don't want anything exposed. Because when you're moving it around in your pack, even inside your pack, those moments, those places where it's going to have friction are going to wear away at the cables or something. So it's probably better to tape that all up. I haven't. But again, these things back here, this one broke off when I crashed on my skateboard. But other than that, it's fine. And then so that's going to go like this. That's going to go like on top. and the fan's pointing out. So what that does is it sucks all the heat out of the unit through the fan, and it gives it even more oomph. And I've never gotten over 45C with this. Before I had a fan, I was regularly hitting 70C, 80C, which is like, you know, your stuff's all going to die. So you don't, you know, 45C is still pretty high, but that's not, you know, most of the time it's around 30-60. It just depends on what's going on outside, and it depends on how big of a bag and everything you have, and I'll talk about that later. So again, this is the main unit. I actually end up taping all the holes up because I don't want, it's a hard call between, you know, ventilation and contamination. And if it's going to go in a bag where there's any risk of dust or sand or something like that in the air, then I'm not a huge fan of lots of like open little things. I did leave this one open though for ventilation on the side, and I covered over this one, and I left, actually I covered over all of these because that's the bottom. So I was like, that's the bottom. And when I use mine, I put this down on the bottom like this, and then I put this here. Wait, let me see if I can get it right. Yeah. So this is how I do mine, and you might do yours differently, but I put mine on the bottom like this, right? And then let's get the other pieces. So, and I at one point I was going to make mine wider, but I really like how this worked out. So here is the power source. So you're probably wondering, how does this thing powered? And here are the absolute best possible power sources for this kind of brick. I am so convinced. Rational IRL did a whole bunch of testing on the consistency of the current and everything, and I just cannot tell you how good these things work out. They are so wonderful. So these are the Topeak 20-watt batteries. There are batteries that have more capacity, but the size of this battery, let me show you. I've got so here's another battery. Here's these old school, you know, and you know, there's been a lot of controversy with this provider of batteries, and this is the Anchor batteries, and I have a couple of those, and those used to be the standard to go to, and Rob City still uses those. But I hate them. I hate them. Compared to these things, I will never go back. These things, not only do they have a meter that tells you how much time you have, they have a USB-C, an old school USB, and two power out and two output USB ports on each one, right? These other ones, I think I think both of these are charging. So it has multiple ways to charge it. And if you look at any of the other batteries, they don't have that. And none of them have an indicator that's this precise, right? So, and then the thing that just worked out to be just like so cool that I could not have even planned it this way. I don't usually have good luck, but this is one time when I had really great luck. But look at the measurements. Look at the measurements. The width of these, and these are aluminum, right? So the aluminum kind of takes away from the heat. The aluminum kind of conducts the heat away from the whole unit too, so it serves as, and the batteries, by the way, don't get hot unless they're getting charged, right? So you don't need to worry about heat unless you're charging the battery. If the battery's putting out, you know, if it's powering something, it doesn't get hot. Everything it powers gets hot, but it doesn't get hot. And so, but what I was trying to show you is, I just want you to see how perfectly the dimensions are on those batteries. You see that? They are exactly, two batteries right next to each other are the exact, and I mean to the millimeter, width of the unit. And I did that totally on accident. I did not plan that. When I realized that, I was like, oh my God, because it's just, you want something to be compact. You don't want it to take a lot of space. And that was just a real huge bonus. And so what I do is I strap these on here, and I strap this on here. At one point, I considered doing this to make, because I have a biker bag that it's more wide than it is, big. But I'm actually I'm gonna stick with this because it's just so perfect. It's just so perfect. Another really good thing about this particular setup is, and I've tried. Does anybody remember the bunny ears one I had? I've tried so many setups. I've tried wireless modems. I've tried a million different things. I had one rig that was all on on one of those organizers, those visor organizers, and it looked like a bunny because the ears would come up. We called it the bunny rig. But this rig has been so rock solid. It hasn't given me any problems at all. And a couple other benefits that you might not realize immediately. So this little area right here in between the fan and the batteries, this area provides protection for all of these cable connections. And I cannot overstate how important that is, because when the thing goes in your bag, you know, you can lock down the cables at another point, like around on the thing. You can tape it down or whatever, but those connections have to remain absolutely undisturbed. The reason that this one, I'm changing this one out, is because this USB port right here, when I bought it used, has been reamed out. So if there's even a little bit of movement in the USB cam, and I got to tell you, the cable that comes from the camcorder to that comes from the camera to this thing is the most finicky of all of them. If you even hiccup on that thing, it will stop sending a signal temporarily. You'll F out, and then it'll have to reconnect and do the whole thing again. And this is actually one of the reasons that people use USB cameras, because if that kind of thing happens when you're using GoPro over Wi-Fi, or if you're using like and you know, like one of the DJI ones, the Action, then if you try to do those things and they crap out, they have to remake a network connection. So you're down for 5 minutes. And it's really, really, I mean, I've done it all the ways. I've done it with GoPro. I've done it. I bought one of those DJIs to try that, and the quality wasn't as good. And, you know, it depends on your local Wi-Fi working and a bunch of other things for the actual camera signal. This is something else I found. I'm just kind of spewing information here, but one of the things I found out too is that depending on Wi-Fi for network connectivity is different than depending on Wi-Fi for image input. If you depend on Wi-Fi for image input, you're depending on the RTMP encoding happening on the thing, which then has to get re-encoded on the box, on the Belabox, into SRT. It has to get sent up to the cloud. It has to get reconverted all the way down to OBS, get reconverted back into RTMP, and go all the way back to Twitch. So there's a lot of processing going on to do that. A lot of bikers are doing that. Yes, you can use the GoPro as a webcam, and I have it on my skateboard. I'll show you how I've mounted the GoPro on my skateboard. The problem with the GoPro is that the GoPro. Okay, so let me pause and drink a little beer. I'm gonna have to drink some beer before I talk about this. So the problem with the GoPro is that the GoPro was absolutely not made for doing. Let's talk cameras. So let me go get it so I can show you. Oh, where are you? There we go. Okay, so I mean, cameras are kind of coming up now, so let's talk about the cameras. All right, so here's my camera rig for the GoPro, right? And it's mounted and everything right now. So I guess we're gonna end up talking about cameras. I didn't want to, but let's do. So this is like the third or fourth or sixth iteration on how to keep the cables connected to your GoPro. The cable connections are the most vulnerable part of your camera. Your cameras are not made to be moving around and connected all the time. The USB connections are designed to do previews on a television. They're not meant to be the output, even though they're the most dependable output if you want reliable signal. And so with a GoPro, you have to do all kinds of fancy things. You have to control it through the phone. There's like you have to get some extra firmware for it and flash a QR code in front of it to get rid of the battery symbol on the thing, because it thinks it's just previewing. It doesn't think it's uses it. It's not designed to be used as a camera like that. It does do RTMP streaming through the web interface, but it burns out the camera too easily, and the camera will stop because it'll get too hot. Because anytime you put too much work on the GoPro, I could do a whole video on the GoPro, because we found out, for example, I put the max lens mod on it, and it burned out every time because the max lens mod causes the CPU and the GoPro to work harder, and anything that makes the CPU work hard makes your camera vulnerable, and it would actually stop. It would brown out all the time. Because and so what I did is I changed the resolution. I changed like hyper smooth on and turned them all down, and I ended up stopping doing it. So that if you're going to use the GoPro, which by the way you might want to do, but the GoPro is really expensive for what you get. It's a good camera if you want to do it for other things, but if you want to stream from the camera, and there's a lot of people who do. Mikey, who's an IRL streamer, he does nothing but this, but he has a GoPro 7. Right, because it has direct connections. It doesn't need to get the extra media mod, which I have here. And you can't even stream without the media mod. By the way, as soon as if you think you're going to be able to do, let your camera out in the water or something while your other rig is all safe in some pack or something, you can't, because as soon as you put the media mod on the GoPro 10 or 11, you've lost all waterproofness, right? So, and I've just learned that trying to stream in a waterproof environment is virtually impossible unless you use a camera that has no dependency on that. It has no dependency on that kind of thing. So if you want to do action shots, if you want to run like I did, or if you want to like put it on your dog, or any of those kind of things, or your skateboard, I would highly recommend, instead of using the GoPro, I mean, I'm using the GoPro, but I don't know if you saw, but I have a cable there, right? And that cable comes up around my back. There's actually on a YouTube video of me skateboarding with that setup, if you want to go watch that. But the good thing about the GoPro that I tried, this is the reason I tried to get the GoPro to work for over a year, is because the kind of streaming that I do is not the regular IRL streaming. When I stream, I want to stream really active stuff. So I was like running. I streamed a 5K a year and a half ago from my phone, actually, with a gimbal. And after that, I mean, we tried to do running and stuff, but we just couldn't get good signal. And so generally speaking, if you're going to be moving around, there's a lot of action involved. You might want to try the DJI Action 2. If you really know you're going to do a lot of that. The DJI Action 2 is the only solution that I would recommend to anybody who wants to do waterproof. So there's I think it's Pillow Tom. Pillow Tom uses the DJI Action 2 and swears by it because it's waterproof, it's magnetic, he can hold it out around. And there's actually another, I forget his name, he's a Spanish streamer in New York, and he will regularly take his camera off of his magnetic mount on his chest and hold it out with one hand while he's on his bike. And like he has all these capabilities for all these different shots and everything, but he's 100% dependent on Wi-Fi, and he has a lot of artifacts in his stream that he finds okay, but people who have been used to a Sony cam like the one I'm using right now, they can't accept that. So there's really 3 cameras in the streaming business, in the IRL streaming business. There is the granddaddy of them all that everybody uses. Everybody uses it. You can't even find it because it's so popular. Right here. So, all right. So let's talk about this for a second. So here's the granddaddy of them all. This is actually, this isn't the granddaddy. This is one level down from the granddaddy. This is only an AS300, right? And this gets really, really great video, and you can actually find it. Most of the really, really pro streamers will use the the FDR 3000, which will do up to 4K, and this actually does 4K, but it will do up to 4K and a bunch of other really high-end stuff. What I've found is IRL streaming, the optimal setting for streaming is 1080p 30 frames per second. And you'll find that most IRL streamers, that's what they're doing. You're doing 1080p at 30 frames per second. That gives you a really safe margin of error without getting insane, right? So this thing, we can talk about the camera all day, but you can go research this. I've got really cheap gaffer tape on mine that's just connecting my connectors. You can get a really expensive, attachment for that. You can buy, Rational's got one that he 3D prints for you if you want. Make sure you take the battery out of here. And then I've got the this is also what everybody uses. I've got the Stuntman mount. And I've got all of the little gadgets and attachers, and I actually decided, I already had a bunch of GoPro attachments for my quick release So I went ahead and went with a GoPro. I've broken probably 8 of them at this point because they're just plastic. But I went ahead with a GoPro mounting system because it's just a lot easier, and it's cheaper, and it gives you a lot more options. So, I mean, there are a lot of people who have created GoPro mounting systems all over the place, right? So I have a GoPro mount up here. I have a GoPro mount right there. You know, I have them over here on my other area. I have them all over. And so I actually think the GoPro mounting system is especially if you already have a GoPro. Yeah. So I think the GoPro mounting system is probably the best. There's another like really expensive mount that everybody has. It's made of aluminum. It's got a quick release on it, and people swear by that. But you know, you only get it in like 1 or 2 places. They take it, they detach it, and they hold it out for them. I've found that, and I don't know if you saw this, but I've found that my bag, and Redempto does this as well. I've found that the portability of the bag is more important than being able to take your camera off of the mount and back and forth. That is, you do need to do that on occasion. Like for example, if you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna go in the car. So you guys see me, I go in the car, I disconnect it from here and I clip it back into my car mount, and we drive around, and then I take it back out again, and it goes pretty quickly. But that's really the only time. Other than that, I can usually. You know, manage this pack, which is an old Patagonia bike bag that I had, right? And then I just run the cable. Actually, the cable's a little bit short right now, but it's funny because the cable was too short, and then I was like, oh, but I'll make it work. Okay, so let's talk about how to get the signal from the camera into the Belabox or anything really. This cam link is the go-to. This is the Elgato cam link. It's absolutely required. You cannot stream without this thing. This will do 4K video, but it's really really finicky. If it gets hot, make sure it's not really. It has to be well ventilated, and it has to be. That's why I put it on a wire. When I've tried to tape it down against to the machine, I've tried to actually tape it to the rig and stuff like that, and every time I do, it overheats. So I tried something different. I tried to extend it to, so there's USB-C, this goes in here, right? And then I have it out here, and ever since I've done that, it's never overheated because it's like out in the air, even if it's in the bag and it's getting ventilated. If you get it like tight, you know, really tightened down, you might think you want to, plus it lets you kind of move it around. Like if I undo this tape sometimes, and then I just take the camera and I swap out for the GoPro or something. It's not that hard to replace the gaffer tape like that. By the way, oops, okay. By the way, I am streaming from a cam link right now. So there you see it. It's messy, I know. So the quality of the stream was so good. And because I wanted a redundant camera, because I didn't want to have, I mean, the one thing about IRL, I've just got to warn you right now, make sure, if you have the money, make sure you have 2 of everything. Because something is going to go wrong. Something's going to break. Something's going to go down. And if you don't have 2, at least 2, you can't go back to the other one. And that's actually why I bought the Nano Developer Kit. You can probably add up the money here. You know, these cameras I bought new. Actually, the one that I'm streaming from right now, I bought new. This particular camera, the on button is a little finicky. I have to kind of play with it to get it to work. But what I'm trying to tell you is having 2 of I mean, maybe not the mounts, I guess. I have tons of little mount pieces, but having 2 of the main pieces of equipment, if you want to have a reliable stream, you have to do that. There's really no option. There's like a sock going for the ride there. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. And what else? So if you have problems with stability, let me give you some other tricks here. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to put my tricks in here. The rest of this stuff you can kind of figure out on your own. I've learned a lot about IRL. Yeah, I mean, always have a backup. I have 2 other batteries. I don't have another one of these fans, but I actually have 3 Jetson Nanos now. And people laugh because they know how much they go for on eBay. I mean, it set me back quite a bit. I've spent way more than people would spend on a live view, but I have triple redundancy. So you don't have that on a live view. All right, let's talk about modems. All right, but before we do, let me actually connect the camera, and I want to show you some tricks you can do to save your camera. So this, you see how these batteries are here? It's because the batteries are there. You can put the camera, you can put the cable in there, right? And you can actually, I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but see how much play there is there? There's a lot of play in that cable. I mean, that play will kill you when you're streaming, because if you bump it or something like that, in this particular one, it's already been reamed out, but if you bump it a little bit, you'll see those little Fs. And if you've ever seen a micro F, like the other night when I was biking, that's what's happening. This cable is just going back and forth like this, right? And so you want to really stabilize that thing down as much as you can. And I found this out completely by accident, but I got these spacers. These are these pads that go on the bottom of chairs, you know? And I found that you can kind of build up a spacer and put it in between. Let me see if I can get it to work. This one's kind of glued on right now. I have to go buy some more actually. So you can build up a spacer, right? And if you build up a spacer after you've already, glued tape down your batteries, you can build a spacer on the other side of your cables, right? A nice spongy spacer. And then what you can do is you can tape down your cable. You can tape your cable to the battery, and you can really lock that down. That thing's not moving anywhere once it's got the spacer there. So that is what gave me really incredible stability, even though this USB port is reamed out, and if it gets on one side it F's out. But I had a lot of I bought a new one for that reason, because I found out it was reamed out. It took me almost a year to figure out what was wrong, and that was what it was. And the way is I would go like this. I would push it to the left and I would black out. I would push it to the right and it would come back. And so I had something going on with the contacts in there. And so what I did is I just set it up so that it was really glued down, taped down to the right angle, and then it worked. But one of the reasons I took this apart is because, well, there's other reasons, but now that it is apart, I'm going to actually use the good one. I'm going to replace it with a new one, and then this will be one of my backups. So when you do that, you can do this. Make sure you don't do too much, but this allows you to like really lock those cables down. And you might be saying, well, gosh, how am I going to deal with the camera then? Well, then I just unplug this, right? I just untape this and unplug this when I want to swap to my GoPro. And that's not actually very much work. And that tape it's gaffer tape, so it doesn't leave a residue at all. It's designed for that. And having a roll of gaffer tape in your bag is absolutely essential. Every IRL streamer has it. So, because something's going to go wrong, you're going to need to adapt, and you just need to be able to put together a solution really quickly. So, and I do the same with the Ethernet. I definitely do the same thing with the power cable, because the power cable is this really delicate USB-C cable, right? And the one thing that you don't want to ruin on your build, this Jetson Nano is the most expensive part of your kit. These batteries cost like 50-60 bucks. This thing costs like 500 bucks right now on eBay, and for a new one. And so you really want to watch out for the most sensitive part of your whole rig are these cable mounts. You want to make sure that you protect those more than anything else on your entire thing, because you can replace a cable, you can replace a battery, but you can't replace those. When those things go bad, you have to buy a whole new board. You either have to buy a board, or you have to get a friend who knows how to solder, who can resolder the connectors, which I actually kind of want to do on this one. If I can find one, I might be able to pull that off. I don't know. Some pretty delicate soldering going on there. There's like lots of connectors. I'm sure there's electricians who do that, who can replace USB ports, but that's like some pretty serious. I don't know, man. God, how would you even do that? They're there, right there. There's the leads right there. You'd have to just replace those, right? I bet you could do that. I bet there's somebody who knows how to solder who could probably do that. So what I'm trying to say is, if you lock down a cable. So where's my cables? Oh, let's talk about cables. Don't scrimp on cables. This is an expensive cable, and even it is subject to damage. So make sure you get the good cables. Otherwise, if you don't get good cables, they won't do the power consumption. Oh, by the way, where is it? You have to have this. This is required. It's a required tool. Everybody has to have it. I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Okay. This specific USB tester. This specific USB tester is the best for the money. Rational recommends it, and I've used it. I've tried other ones. They're not nearly as good. This has USB-C and everything. This will tell you exactly what your voltages are. I must have spent like, I don't know how many hours, some of you may have watched before. I must have spent like 20 hours doing voltage testing to make sure that my power consumption levels were the thing. The single biggest problem, the most greatest mystery of trying to figure out an IRL rig like this is power consumption. If you are not getting the right power to the right things, everything will act really weird. Sometimes it'll brown out and it won't be gone entirely, and it's almost impossible to debug. So the one thing you don't want to skimp on is, you know, stuff related to consistent power. It's why these Topic batteries, these are the ones that Rational IRL himself uses and recommends, and that's why I'm so happy I got them, because they, in terms of like power, but it's more than that, right? It's also how much power is being drawn from your board. People that plug in So one of the biggest breakthroughs I had, and I'm talking like a huge breakthrough, was I stopped using Wi-Fi wireless modems. Where are they? Let me see if I can find that old one. I stopped using wireless modems. Whoops, sorry. I'm like using too many hands right now. I know. At least that wasn't you. The sound wasn't coming from there. Anyway, maybe I can't find it right now. Let me try. I have it here somewhere. They're these rabbit ears, like AT&T modems. Oh my god, they're such shit. Let's see if I can find one. They're such shit. Don't get it. I'm just telling you, don't do it. If you want to do it, fine. Oh look, I have another medium on. Yeah, that's left over. Anyway, I'll talk to you about that later. So let's move to the next thing. Okay, so the camera signal, you have a cam link, it's plugged in, it's stabilized. You're not doing HDMI out. This fan is powered by USB. And so here's another weird thing that I found out the hard way. Make sure you plug your camera into your battery first. I cannot explain it, but if you don't plug your camera into your battery first, your battery, everybody likes to joke about the bomb. If you don't plug your camera in first, for some reason, the drain on the battery makes it so that it's not consistent. You try to push the battery button on, it takes you a while to get it to pull up. So I've noticed I don't know if this is true or not, but I've noticed that when I plug in the camera first, I usually plug the camera and the fan over here. So I plug my camera and fan together. I'm gonna have to change it now. It might be right because I have to figure out the power drain, right? So I plug my camera and I plug the camera first, and then I plug the fan in, and I make sure the camera has its own battery and stuff. And then I'll plug the fan in, and I have the fan permanently on high. So as soon as I plug it in, it goes on. That's the only annoying thing is I can't just power off my rig, right? Because if I put the power for this onto the Belabox, you do not want to drain power from the Belabox. You don't want to do that. It heats the Belabox up, and plus it uses unnecessary power. So I power this thing directly off the battery. The only thing that gets power from the Belabox is the Belabox and the Elgato cam link. That's it. That is the only things that get power off that. And I've noticed that you want a nice big margin of extra power for the Belabox to draw on, because to do different things. Because if you you can actually plug your Wi-Fi, those wireless modems, they draw power straight off the Belabox. And so, and I know, God, how many times did we go through this? Do you guys remember this? we would go into different areas and we were like, why is it all of a sudden failing? And the reason was because it was the wireless modems. I actually put the meter on it. I put the meter on the wireless modems, and they started going crazy on power consumption. As soon as the signal got really bad, they would just crank up the power consumption. Well, where was the power coming from? The power was getting drained off of the board, and so it was browning out all of the processing on the board in the CPU that has to handle the Elgato. And that was killing everything. It was killing everything. And it was those power fluctuations that were causing the problem. All of that power was all affecting the Belabox, right? Because it was all going through the Belabox. No matter how much extra power, here, I'll show you the dongle. We're going to get to this thing next. But no matter how much extra power that I put into the U-grain, I actually burned one out once because I won't get all into all the details, but I did all the voltage ratings on the U-grain, and I found out that there's a maximum amount. And if you plug in 2 Wi-Fi dongles and you get to a lower thing, you will draw so much power that you'll burn out your U-grain adapter. And I've burned one before. I've burned one out before, because these are not designed to be higher power items, even though they have their own optional power source, which we're going to talk about. So you know, when you're using those Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi wireless modems, the biggest problem. I mean, so many IRL streamers use them and they don't ever have a problem, but I did, and I want to tell you, I will never go back because I'm going all over the place in different places, and so the amount of power that each modem would need, depending on the service provider and where it was, would fluctuate completely crazily. And so all that power fluctuation was hitting the Belabox itself, which would cause the Belabox to brown out. And then what would happen is the Belabox would brown out and it would reboot automatically, but all of my kilobits per second would drop to nothing, and it would come back about a minute later. But it had to reboot the Belabox. It would brown out the Belabox enough for it to have to come back all the time. And it was so annoying. It was so annoying. And I was like, well, what's drawing the power? What's killing it? And said, okay, well, I'm going to make this like a luxury vacation for the Belabox from now on. I am not going to have anything drawing power from my Belabox except for the stuff that has to. The Elgato Cam Link, which is a big power draw. This thing is doing, I mean, this is a full-blown GPU, 4K Elgato Cam. It's amazing that's even that small. That thing draws all kinds of power. It gets so hot. But here's the thing. That power drain, according to my measurements, is consistent. When the Cam Link is on, the power drain from the Cam Link Elgato camcorder encoder is always the same. It's the same amount of current. But when you plug your wireless modems and stuff in here that have fluctuating power needs, then you're like really creating chaos for your Belabox. And so instead of doing that, what you do is you make sure that the stuff that's drawing power off the Belabox is really, really consistent, that it's not going to get crazy. So the fan is consistent, the Cam Link is consistent, and we have and then we have, you know, the modems and stuff. So I actually did this as a trick, as a joke. I didn't think it was going to work as well as it did, and I cannot overstate how amazing this has been. This setup, I don't know any other IRL streamer who is doing this right now, and I cannot overstate how valuable this setup is at saving costs in America, where it costs, you know, $80 a month to only, you know, to stream maybe 4 hours for that particular service account. You know, you want to save money on your bandwidth and stuff, right? So you know, at one point I was like really leery of like Wi-Fi in general, because I was having problems with Wi-Fi conflicts, you know, in my apartment complex and stuff like that. Turned out to be I was using wireless modems and they were having power fluctuations and they were having other power issues. I mean, that's obviously the reason, because this works flawlessly. I have never had a problem with this. So what you do with this is you get these really low power USB modem Wi-Fi dongles, right? You get these like really ultra low power Wi-Fi dongles. I think these are all 2.4 only. And you actually don't need much more than that. But this one's a 5. So this one has a 5 and a 2.4. And let me tell you why. Okay, so what happens is this thing gets plugged in first, right? You got to make sure you plug this thing in first. and it draws all of its this goes into right here. So because this doesn't need the kind of bandwidth that you need for USB 3, it's just, you know, Wi-Fi modem signals. You can put this into one of your other USB ports, right? So I put it into this USB port and I put a spacer there and everything, and that's permanently connected there. And so we put that there, and then wait, let me see if I can get it. All right, there we go. So, and then on this other side, it just turned out that because it does get hot, this does get hot. So I was like, hey, and it just, again, another, you know, serendipitous good luck kind of thing, that I actually tape this straight to the fan on this side. So now it's kind of locked down. It's right on the fan. And then when I need to turn it on, so that's why this cable's red and the other one's blue, I make sure to plug this cable in first, right? And when you plug this cable in first, that'll power up all of these little guys. And I actually got all but the one on the end. These, you can get the ones with the lights. I really strongly recommend you get the ones with the lights, because when you get the ones with the lights, you can see when they come on. When they come on, you can see them. They're like all blinking. It's nice and pretty, and you can tell when they're being worked on. So, like when you turn one off, you can see that it goes off, and so you can use it to coordinate your WLAN 0123 from your Bell UI, which I'll show you later, and you can actually turn them all on. So why four? Why four of them? Here's why. Because even if you only want to use one internet service provider, okay, so let's talk about communications. Let's talk about other pieces now. In fact, I kind of want to just gaffer tape that just to hold it for now. Let's do that, just so you can kind of see. I mean, this is not my final, obviously. I just want to hold it in place so you can get a sense of how to fit it together. That's the only reason I'm doing this. Okay, so, oopsie. All right, so you go there, and you know you're gonna find like 100 different opinions on how to do this, but this is my opinion. So, all right, so that's kind of the kit. I mean, if you can find a bag that would fit in kind of nicely, we can plug this power. I actually realized I cut myself short on power. I might have to rethink it. I might have to just put the fan in there. Okay, so now the fan is on. And you know, if the fan connection doesn't work really well, that's not a big deal. Okay, now all right. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is service providers and modems. And I have spent thousands of dollars and returned thousands of dollars of shitty modems and tested all of this stuff. I cannot overstate how much research I have done in America finding out the best possible service provider combination and the best possible modems. And so the first piece of this is the Netgear. Okay, so let me see if I can turn it on. This is like the central piece of your network. It is the most important piece, and it also doubles as something your computers can connect to and phones can connect to if you need to, if you're out in the middle of nowhere. So you really have to have one. Rob CD has two of them. So take your mobile hotspot, power bank, camera, and no software set. Yeah, I don't believe it for a second. No, everybody's all about that. No, I have something that actually works, and so I'm going to continue to use what actually works. And I mean, it took me years to get to the point where I figured out all the quirks of every single little thing. So this is an AT&T M5, I think. Is it an M1 or M5? You can get the M6. The M6 is $800. This one was $500. And wow, you can hear it and everything. It's saying so. You can hear my wife in the other room. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is a Nighthawk M5. All right. Nighthawk M5. It's got a MAC address. It's got a telephone number. All that jazz. All right. So, and I mean, there's all the stuff it shows you. Okay. So the reason this piece of your equipment is so important is because, yeah, they're all pricey, but this is 100% worth it. If you're going to do any traveling of any kind, you need this thing. Because this thing, and mine's running against AT&T. These things were primarily made for AT&T, so they play nicer with AT&T. I have tried to do it with Verizon. I did. I bought one and I tried to get it on Verizon. It was a total fail. So I've learned another lesson the hard way, and I'm just going to spit it out. Don't swim against upstream. When you're buying stuff from a service provider, buy their stuff. Don't try to get something to work over here and over this and get it unlocked here. I can't tell you, and there's a lot of people who could tell you the similar stories of people who say they got unlocked modems and they actually weren't, and all this other stuff. The long story short of that is you're going to save yourself a ton of headache if you get the equipment from the service provider. Yes, it's true that you can buy the other stuff, but you just don't know if it's going to be supported. I bought a couple 3G modems and found out AT&T doesn't do 3G anymore. They turned everybody off. So that's the first thing. So what are the services? So let's talk about the first one. So the Netgear here, this Netgear M5 Nighthawk, this goes into the Ethernet port, and this provides all of the this provides a direct ETH0 connection to the thing, right? That's an ATH0 connection. So that is I need to probably put the card back in it. I mean, if we're gonna do this, might as well do it like right. Yeah, let me see if I can put the card back in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just realized it's probably this. We can try to test this broken one. I don't want to have to re-glue it all and everything. I only want to do one of these videos. I can hear you, just so you know. They hate it that I stream, but oh well. Sucks to be them. They married me. Okay, so so that should be ready to power on, and we can do the power on later. Actually, we can try that. All right, so now why the 2-foot cable? Okay, these things we've actually heard from professionals who work in networking and wireless signal stuff that you don't want these things too close. Like if they're within a foot of each other, they usually don't work as well as they could. And had a VOD on this episode. You will. This is a YouTube. So I'm recording it to YouTube. And so here we go. So now we have, I guess I'm kind of loud. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm getting kind of loud. So this is the most important piece, and there is one major downfall of this. In order to get your Belabox to work, you have to turn it on, and the first time you turn it on, it will connect to your network, and it will fire up on. It'll get an automatic IP address with DHCP, and and you'll need to be able to get that. You'll need to be able to go scan or look at your router and get it, right? Well, if you put your laptop on the same as your Netgear, I found this out last night. The AT&T Netgear has something that blocks port 80, so that you can Nmap and scan and everything, and you can be on the same network, but if things that are connected to the Wi-Fi on this are not visible to things that are connected with the Ethernet. Now, I don't know if that's by design or if it's in a setting I can change, but so far that's a pain in the butt. So what you can do instead is when you're first doing this, setting it up, you can disconnect the Ethernet from the Netgear. You can connect this Ethernet to your own broadband for your home, your router for your home, and then for the first time it starts up, it will start up using your home network. And then you can just use your regular methods on your home network to go find the IP address and put the keys in and everything. And I'm not going to go through those steps with you right now. They're pretty well documented, but it's just a matter of opening up the Bella UI by going to the IP address that has been assigned to your Belabox on its first boot. And as soon as you do that, you cut and paste in there your stream keys and your your Bella UI and all the stuff necessary to get from the cloud, and that's probably a whole video series all by itself. But that once you have that, and once you've got the first one set up, then you can start. You can start to use it for other things. Hey, Timon. So then after that works, you can come back, and you can connect to your Netgear, and if you've proven that your Netgear has a connection, it will automatically adapt, and it will use the Netgear to connect out to the internet. And this, you're going to find that I think that this is the most reliable high bandwidth mechanism for communicating with your service. So, and AT&T in my area has by far the best coverage, way more than Verizon. I can't explain it. I'm just telling you. I've looked at maps. I've done everything. But on the whole, when I look at what services are pushing what modems are pushing what, it's almost always the AT&T that's pushing the highest bandwidth. I don't know if it's because it has a stronger signal, because it's got a bigger antenna, or what. Okay, so let's talk about antennas and signals for a second. So this Netgear has a battery in it. Okay, it comes with a battery in it, and I'm going to tell you something that no other IRL streamer will tell you. Leave the battery in it, and let me tell you why. Every other streamer that I know disagrees with me on this, but I'm going to tell you why I think that. I think my friend, the Spanish speaker from New York, does the same thing. But just connect to this. It doesn't work. Belabox.local doesn't work, Timon. I did it last night. It doesn't find it. No. .local is using the whole what's that other any? You have to have a computer that supports that. And if most of your Macs do, but other computers don't. So I tried it; it doesn't work. So I had to go find it. It's cool if you have that. So Belabox.local only works if what is it called? It starts with an A. ACE. There's a protocol. There's a protocol that automatically broadcasts your IP address as your hostname .local, and it has to be enabled, and it's not MDNS, it's something like that though. Anyway, so let's get back to why did I leave the battery in here? Yeah, I think it is MDNS. Avahi, that's it. Avahi is the name of the thing if you want a sudo apt install Avahi. Macs come with Avahi support by default, and Belabox has it, but it might work. But it depends on what you're connecting from. If you're connecting from a Windows box or you're blocking MDNS, it might not work, and then you have to go to the address. That's what the console says, by the way. If you actually open up the console, it will tell you what your IP address is, which is you'd have to plug in your HDMI out to do that, which I did yesterday. So why batteries? Okay. The reason that the battery is here is because this thing has a 10-hour battery in it. Did I say that again? Okay. Yeah, they improved stuff. They also broke me yesterday. Yeah, my whole system broke last night, and so I had to redo everything and chop it all up and re-image the disk and everything. Yeah, because I didn't keep up on the updates. Good to see you too, by the way. Temin, by the way, Temin is in TEMIN. Has been really instrumental in helping me get all this stuff working over the years. It's been really great having Temin here. But the Netgear router, this Netgear router has a 10-hour battery, and I've tested it, and it does. It lasts 8 to 9 hours by itself. And so you're like, well, why would you possibly do that, right? I mean, most of the people will tell you to take the batteries out of your modems and to use another battery so that it doesn't overheat. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's a bad idea. Because I did it a lot, and it's usually the problem with the overheating is not related to that can help you, but the reason that happens is the reasons that people say to take the batteries out of their so just imagine this for a second, okay? This is just one modem, right? The people that use the other method that I tried and failed many times to do is they'll have an entire series of batteries, and they'll have battery powered modems, which by the way are not supposed to be powered by external sources. They're not designed for that. Okay, these modems are not designed to be powered externally. They're not. They're designed to be charged externally, and that's a really big difference. So when you take the battery out of it, first of all, the modem's like, what the hell? right? And it'll keep warning, it'll keep saying, I don't have my battery, I can't work, and you have to keep touching things to make it work. And then what happens is, you plug in a battery to charge it, and then it thinks it's charging. And so then you have to go into the settings and you have to say, okay, you're charging now. You're charging. I promise you're charging. So don't do it. Say, do I should do it on the internet while I'm charging? I say yes. And so it thinks it's charging, and even though you just want it to run off of the battery, you don't want it to think it's charging or anything. And so to get it to stop thinking it's charging, you take the battery out, right? Well, here's the problem: if you have any hiccup, if you have any hiccup at all in your battery power to your modem blacks out and goes off, and it doesn't restart. And I'm getting a little bit agitated because of all the times that happened to me. Because I was so good with the batteries, I was so good with them having their own power consumption, I was so good with them being fed independently, and all of that jazz. And it still never worked. Every time I would get a little bump or a hiccup, one of my modems would think that it wasn't around and it would die. It would go off, right? And then I would be down one modem, so I'd have two more modems. If I didn't have those modems, I was screwed, right? But then they would all start to have the same problem. And then so I thought, okay, fine. Well, I'll put the batteries in them so that even if they come disconnected from their main power, they'll still stay on. Well, then you have another problem. The problem is now is that they think that they're charging. And so they overheat and then they turn off. So the moral to the story is use the equipment as it was designed. Use the equipment as it was designed. Don't try to cross the streams too much by changing stuff. And ever since I've done that, I haven't had any problems at all. It's been amazing. So what are these designed to do? These things are designed, number one, to run off their own internal battery power. That's the number one thing. Number two, they're designed to either connect via Ethernet cable or by wireless connection, and to serve, wireless traffic that way. That's what they're designed to do. And they're designed to be charged by USB attachments, right? Now, they might say that they can use USB to connect and all that jazz, which you can do, right? Because then I even tried a USB splitter once to have it go into the Belabox and into the power, and I have to say, okay, well, is it getting enough power? And then I had all the problems with power fluctuation again, because now I don't know how much power it's going to draw. So the moral of the story is leave the fucking batteries in the modems, okay? If you leave the batteries in the modems and you get good modems, okay? This is the top of the line Inseego modem, all right? And both Verizon and T-Mobile offer this modem, okay? This is the top of the line modem from Inseego and from Verizon. I cannot stress enough how awesome this modem is. This modem is so cool. It charges in under an hour. It has fast charging. And it's really, really powerful. It's way more powerful than the Netgear, even though it's in the same vein as the Netgear. And it just so happens that both, I haven't found any good modem replacement batteries. I think there's probably some out there, but I don't know. So this Inseego modem, so both Verizon and T-Mobile offer the Inseego modem. I tried one of their shittier modems, and I had horrible, horrible luck with it. I had to take it back. These two modems have fantastic coverage, right? They can like chew right through there. Okay, so another reason you don't want to skimp on the modem, they have fast charging. You have to have a fast charger, the super power ones, but they do fast charging. Yeah, it's crazy. And the thing that's really great is if you like toggle them, you can like take one off and then plug it in. So I just plug them in every night. So both of these Inseego modems are rated at 10 hours each. So they're 10 hours on their own batteries, and then this is 10 hours on this battery. Hi, I'm recording a video. And you should also disable USB tethering and Wi-Fi if only using Ethernet and Netgear. Disable USB tethering and Wi-Fi if only using Ethernet and Netgear. Yeah, but I'm not doing that. No, I leave it on. I leave it on because I mean, some people might want to do that, but I don't. You know what's really crazy? I swear to God, I have the numbers to prove it. This is, I have actually had a Wi-Fi connection to here in addition to the Ethernet, and I've got more throughput than just the Ethernet. Isn't that crazy? So how do you connect to all these things? Well, don't go against the grain. Don't cut against the grain. Don't swim upstream. use what they were designed to be used for, Wi-Fi connections. The thing that's so cool about that is, let's say you're having a bad signal. Okay, this is something that I don't know why all the IRL streamers don't know about this, but these things, I can, like, if I'm streaming from my car, and I don't want these things buried in my bag somewhere, I can take these things out and put them anywhere. I've put them in my pockets. I put them in my shoulder pack. I've put them on the dashboard of the car so that they'll get better reception. I can move these things around so that they get better reception. They are not tied to the whole rig. They're not even close to the rig, so they're not getting mechanical interference. They're not getting electrical interference or anything. They can be totally apart from each other. Right? And because they're good modems, they're not pieces of shit, they actually get good signal, and their Wi-Fi never fails. It doesn't fail. So as long as you have a good Wi-Fi dongle and you're within 4 or 5 feet of the thing, even in downtown urban areas where I was afraid I was going to get Wi-Fi conflicts and stuff, I haven't been in a concert yet, but so far I haven't had any conflicts with that. In fact, you can usually take advantage of another advantage of this particular setup. So, so I have 3 modems. I have one from Verizon, one from T-Mobile, and one from AT&T. Okay, and then but Rob, why do you have 4 modems on here? Why do you have 4 dongles? Right. The reason I have 4 dongles, 3 with lights and 1 without lights that's got 5G. The reason I have this is because these 3 modems, for you to say that, Temin, is a really good thing, because I am super happy you said that. Did you see how this spacing of this battery worked out? Isn't that nice? Anyway, so this thing has got some unknown advantages that I want to tell you about, and I believe the IRL community has not tapped into the full potential of the Wi-Fi dongle. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. This has got full power for all 3 of these. These don't take a lot of power. Right? So this is perfectly within the power spec for the Ugreen. It's consistent power. Why? Because these things only have to emit a signal that gets to these modems. That's it. It doesn't have to go farther than that. Right? And the reason that there's 4 of them is because I need 2 of them. Right? I need 2 of them for the Verizon, and this is how I set it up. So this is 0. This is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So in the Bella UI, this will show up as 0, 1, 2, 3, Wi-Fi WLAN 0, WLAN 1, 2, and 3. And so 0, I always put 0 because it's the top thing in my Bella UI. I always leave 0 unassigned to one of my modems. And what I do is this is so cool about the Bella UI with Wi-Fi. I don't know why people haven't discovered this, but you can actually add, so anytime you go to a place that you stream from normally, like when I go to the pub, or I go to any place that has Wi-Fi, you go to the Wi-Fi there, you push on your button, you sign into the Wi-Fi there, and it remembers it. The Belabox forever remembers that location. So this Wi-Fi 0, I leave it off, and so that it's always the local Wi-Fi, because then I know if it starts to come on automatically, I know that I can go in my Bella UI, I can toggle off these other 2, and I don't burn a cent of bandwidth because I'm using their Wi-Fi setup. And 90% of the time when I'm streaming from a concert or a pub or something like that, they have Wi-Fi that's good enough, like really good. So all I have to do is go there and then put it in my stuff, and it will remember all of them. It remembers. That's why I was bummed that I had to like redo my card, because if you just do the updates, you don't lose all your data. I lost all my O-Town Public House, Wi-Fi signal stuff. I'm gonna have to sign in all over again. But up until now, if I go to the O-Town Public House, it pulls in that signal automatically, and I know I'm there. I go to my Bella UI GUI, and I just tap off the ones that cost me money, right? And then just recently I added another one. So now I have this one here, and I have found so like when I come home, when I stream from home, I turn everything off except for my Wi-Fi, and I don't spend a dime of bandwidth. Yeah. And the service providers have different hotspots in different places. Sometimes you need a more reliable signal. So if I start effing out or something like that, okay, fine. I'm going to go turn back on these other 2. But now I've got an extra. I've got a Wi-Fi 3, WLAN 3, and then live view experience. Yeah. So here we have this one over here is a 5G, right? So occasionally I'll be in places that have 2 Wi-Fi signals. right? And so I can actually turn this one and this one on. And on occasion, and this is really, really weird, I cannot explain this, but on occasion, I will run this Wi-Fi dongle through the Netgear router as a Wi-Fi connector in addition to the Ethernet. And you believe it or not, you get a certain level of redundancy that is good, even if it's technically going over the same wavelength. It's really crazy. I can't fully explain it, but it provides an extra level of stability to the stream, because if there's like a hiccup with the Ethernet, then this Wi-Fi doesn't have a problem because it's going through, and so it kind of covers itself again. So when this is all working, I have quadruple redundancy. In where I'm getting a signal from. Usually that's the main thing, because one signal will go bad for some reason, not just because of the service provider, maybe the modem gets overheated. That does still happen on occasion when you leave them on in a bag or something. And I mean, I have the T-Mobile one for some reason goes off more than the other one. I think it's because it detects that it's not getting a lot of work. I need to go look at the settings on it. I don't know why, but suffice it to say that I can lose one or two modems. Sometimes there's the new Archer, right? T3U. Oh, I'll have to go look for that. Yeah. So this has kind of been a video about my setup. I need to tape everything back together again. And then what I do, I mean, how you do the cabling and everything is kind of another video, but I did want to show you this unit. As I said, when it's all taped up in the final form, these pieces right here are secured with tape really well. And so to turn on the unit, I just plug the cables in a particular order, and then I turn the camera on, and then I just go look at my Bella UI on my phone, and I'm good to go. That's literally it. And that is really the holy grail. That's what I really wanted. I did not want to have to fuck around. You don't want an IRL stream if you have to spend forever charging. It's a pain in the butt enough when you get home and you're tired to unplug everything and make sure you plug your chargers in. That's a pain enough. But it's even more of a pain if you'd have to like mess with everything. So literally, for me to stream, I open the flap on my pack. I unplug the batteries that are usually charging everything. I plug in the cables in a specific order. I go to my phone. I turn on my Dank chat, which I want to use IRL chat instead eventually. And then I go to the Bella UI and I click on it and I wait for the things to come up. And when they come up, I could start and I'm done. That's it. And I'm streaming at that point. So that's the way to go. I'm still in search of a better bag for this. I'm kind of trying to look for like a bag to hold this little thing. At one point, I actually created kind of a makeshift handle for it out of tape that I could grab from the top, because you find it, you're kind of like pulling it out of things. This particular kit, by the way, fits perfectly. It fits absolutely perfectly in like a Patagonia running bag. It fits absolutely perfectly in a Patagonia running bag. It also fits in a Patagonia bike bag. I like the bike bag better because it doesn't look as weird. I mean, there's the big, white camera sticking out, but it looks sort of more normal. Also, the bike bag I can wear on one arm, as opposed to the other one I have to take the whole thing off and bring the whole thing back on. And then I've found that I don't really do things with every time I've tried to use a tripod in the wild, I've ended up hurting my camera because it falls over or something. But I found that if I leave the camera attached to my bag and then I just figure out a way to hang my bag, or I usually end up with shots that are underneath me, which is kind of bad, but if usually you can figure out a way to just hang the bag. And I noticed that Redempto, that's exactly how he streams too, and he's a pretty regular streamer. So that's my setup, and that's I think that's going to be all for the video today. If you have any questions about the hardware involved here, or that I might have covered, let me know. But the rest of the stuff about the Bella UI and everything, I think you can probably figure out on your own. I mean, if you're going to get into this, you're going to have to figure that out at some point. It's just no getting away from it. So I'm going to tape everything back up, and I'm going to make these other redundant nanos. But and we'll in another video we'll talk about costs and everything. But I can tell you, you can start adding up the money here, right? I actually have somewhere I have a budget spreadsheet for the whole thing, and it cost me, to set the whole thing up cost me about, I would say, $1,200 which is still cheaper than the live view. And I bought the modems by putting their price in the service. And to stream with a triple redundant service like this, let's see, AT&T was 80, it was 88, T-Mobile was 60, and Verizon was 40 because I'm already a customer there. So, you do the math that there. And what's that, just in case? I have the way. I have this one right here, and I really like it because the size perfectly corresponds to the size of the batteries. It's called the WaveShare. All right, so I think that's going to be it today, but it is spendy to get into this hobby, and I told myself when I got into it that I was going to use the expense as a way to motivate me to want to keep doing it. But I went for 2 months and I just wasted that money. But I want to thank everybody. Your money, your subs and everything actually directly pay for this. I could not do this without it. There's no way I would have done this streaming without it. If you want to do this kind of thing, I think you should probably plan on maybe a $2,000 or $3,000 budget to get yourself started. And I'm not talking about the equipment. The equipment probably going to cost you about $1,200, but you're going to need to pay. You're going to need to kind of eat the money for the services for the first month or two to get enough content out there for people to maybe want to watch you do the IRL thing. And once you hit about God, I don't even know. I think I'm probably 160 on average, set 200 subs. I don't have very many subs. But once you hit that wherever I am now, I mean, I average about maybe 50, 60 people a stream. I don't have a very big community, but my community's really nice, and they tend to be wealthier people. So they support me a lot. And that if you're going to do the cost of this, you should probably have maybe 1 or 2 months runway to try to build your stream up before you otherwise you're never going to break even. Right now I break even. The only time I don't break even is if I end up going out to eat too much. So I don't know. Are you there? Are you who is it? Gus? Was it Guy or Gus? Is somebody gifted us 10 subs the other day. We were at dinner and they literally paid for our dinner, and I just can't thank you enough for that. That was really fun. I have a full-time job because I want to do this as a hobby, and if I had to make money a lot of the IRL streamers, this is kind of a secret. A lot of the IRL streamers barely break even. Their expenses are really high, and you got to understand that they're like paying everything off their stream. They're paying for the rent, they're paying for their travel stuff and everything. So I just want to say, thank you to those people who do support me, and I appreciate it. But if you want to get into this, don't try to. I mean, if you're going to do it for a living, I would be really careful. I would have $3,000 to $5,000 saved up before you actually get into it. But hopefully, if anything, this video can say I've spent thousands of dollars on horrible mistakes. The entire GoPro shit. I bought like 2 different GoPro cameras, one of which I gave to my son, another one I had to return, and because they just were horrible. I bought the DJI Action 2, I had to return that. I've bought other stuff that I couldn't return. I eventually gave in and got the Sony, but I had to pay like $600 for the AS300, which isn't even the good Sony. Oh God, come on, Guy. I wasn't. I was. Oh God, Guy just gave out 5 subs, and I was talking about Guy giving out subs and how much I appreciate it, and there he goes again. Guy, I wasn't asking. I wasn't fishing. You know that, right? Okay, that drink of Guinness is on Guy. Guy is the guy. Guy Ross, thank you. So that's what this costs to do, and I'll keep the streams coming. I'll keep the YouTube content coming. I know this is a very, as I said, I have a full-time job, so my videos, if you're watching this on YouTube, you already know that my videos are very unpolished and messy, and sound is, volumes are all over the place, and I just want to tell you, that I've decided to put, good content out there in terms of like the information, and not be well organized all the time, instead of like waiting around and putting, a lot of polish on it. So my content is not going to have a lot of polish ever, because I have a job. So, but at least it's there and you can go do it. I truly believe, oh God, that was the fan. I believe that this is probably one of the best IRL rig kits that anybody can make. It's definitely the cheapest. It's definitely the cheapest kit you can make, that has triple redundancy, and it's very, very, very highly portable. It has really, really high signal possibilities. By the way, these couldn't you just assign someone for community to edit your videos? Yeah, they don't do that. I would be nice, but they don't do that. I mean, they do kind of, but not really. So these, by the way, these modems, I forgot to mention. If you go, these modems, we haven't tested this fully yet. I bought the antennas and I took them back. I didn't have time. These have ports for external antennas. So you can, strictly speaking, you could. I haven't tried this yet, but you can mount an external antennas. I want to talk to Trucker Dan. We rated him last night. Trucker Dan, I think, has some antennas. It can get the Belabox B. I saw that. I'm not impressed at all. And then there's all these people with heat problems. I'm like, not impressed. I'm not impressed with the B at all. So, yeah. I mean, does the B, well, we could talk about the B another day. Does the B have modems in it? Yeah. So, can I get, so here's another thing here. So all of these high-end modems, they have connections for external antennas. So what I'm trying to say is that, you can take these and put them in your car and mount antennas all over the place. You can if you go to camp, you can mount them in different places. You can like set up the signal if you're going to be camping, right? So you can like find the maybe there's a tower for T-Mobile. They usually share towers at a time. I've noticed that there's very rarely there's one service that doesn't have both towers. Get one layer TLDR. What is this thing? Thanks. Had a typo. This is a Belabox Jetson Now IRL streaming rig with two Topeak 20 watt batteries, or 20,000 milliamp, sorry, and the case and a fan and 4 Wi-Fi dongles to connect to Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T through 3 modems, and yeah. And so that the thing I like about how it looks is how the batteries perfectly to the millimeter match the metal case. They perfectly match the metal case, and they provide protection for the cable connections by having kind of a recessed area inside of here. I just cannot. I didn't plan that, but it turned out that way, and it is kind of square, and it doesn't quite fit in my pack. It's kind of like a big block in my pack. And I'm kind of looking for a pack that fits it better, but other than that, it's been really fun, and it just worked out really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video now. I'll still be on Twitch, but I'm gonna go ahead and end the video now. If you have any questions, again, you're watching rwxrob.tv. You can come on in anytime to Twitch and chill out with us, or go biking. I did my first bike stream yesterday. I biked around for about an hour and a half before the IRL died. I thought it was the Bellbox Cloud, but I think it was the Shineki rotor. But so that is that's the thing that I do now. I got the bike and I'm ready to go, and I'm super anxious to go biking and doing adventure camping trips and stuff like that. And hopefully that'll give you something fun to do. Let's see. Tinfoil protection is a must. As a professional, I would publish a VOD. Yeah, this VOD will get published, and I'll also be doing a YouTube video of this as well. We're going to do both of those things, and I'm going to go ahead and publish the VOD right now, so you can go back and watch the construction of the thing. I guess that's it. That's all I have to say. So see you, YouTube. Thanks again.